Hare Krishna, welcome back to Sankirtan, your hub for captivating Sankirtan stories, practical tips and tricks, and boundless inspiration from around the globe. Powered by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust and devotees like you, Sankirtan is created to support the Sankirtan movement globally and keep the transcendental sound vibrations going.
Every week, we have an episode that helps you connect with Srila Prabhupada's books by inspiring you to both read and distribute them. So let's get to it.
Hare Krishna, welcome to Sankirtan On. I'm your host for today, Saumya-mayī Devi Dasi. Thank you for joining us for another inspiring episode where we dive into the heart of Srila Prabhupada's book distribution mission. Today we have one of my personal book distributor inspirations from New Zealand. Instructed and encouraged by their beloved spiritual master, His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj, they have been actively engaged in book distribution for over 10 years. They are now leading Sankirtan initiatives in New Zealand and the yearly global book distribution mission for Devamrita Maharaj's Vyas Puja. After 8 years in the ladies' ashram and 2 years of working, where despite working they still went out daily for book distribution, on the 9th of July, they are leaving behind their job to focus on outreach and book distribution projects. Please join me in welcoming Her Grace Saumya-mayī Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Nikunjavasini. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us and making the time in your busy schedule traveling.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to talk about Sankirtan. So I'm really grateful for you reaching out.
So to dive into it, you mentioned to me that you had first come across the holy name in Croatia. Can you please tell us more about your experience and how you came across Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I always had like quite a deep interest in ancient culture and understanding like the essence of human psychology and what's the common thread that connects us. So I studied culture anthropology and development studies at university. And then when I was 19 years old in my second year at uni, I went over to study for 1 year in the University of Copenhagen in Denmark, like a student exchange. And during that time, I was doing a lot of travels here and there, like backpacking, hitchhiking. And I think I spent about 3 months in Eastern Europe, just traveling wherever I felt inspired to go. I was a little bit of a hippie back then. And I just found that because I had this kind of hunger to understand what is underlying all the different cultures, religions, spiritualities, I would often end up at like churches, mosques, temples, journaling a lot, trying to kind of join the dots between all of them. Anyway, so during those travels over summer, I was in Slovenia at this lake by myself, and I just happened to check the information center computer at the time, and then I had all these messages from my friends and family back home saying that one of my best friends, he was also 19, the head boy at our high school, he had taken his life. He had killed himself, and it was a real shock for me. And that was like well, I like to call them now like a cosmic catalyst, or like a situation in your life where it really kind of shifts your perspective or wakes you up a little bit.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm explaining this is because that led me to a lot like deeper spiritual inquiry, and really all the questions that I'd had about life and the questions that I had about understanding what's the essence of us, they were really brought to the surface at that time. And I was starting to think like, okay, well, who is here beyond that body that's now finished, and why are we here, and what happens after death, and all these things. So at that point, I felt pretty emotionally overwhelmed, and because I was on my own, I didn't know so much what to do. So then I went back to the home. I was doing some couch surfing, so I went back to the person's house that I was couch surfing at in Slovenia. And then he was like, okay, well, why don't you volunteer to keep your mind off the grief and, this distressing situation? If you help others, then you are not so absorbed in your own problems. So I thought, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I probably need that. And then we went onto this Workaway website, And I said, okay, whatever is the first thing that comes up on this website, I'm going to go there. And it doesn't matter where it is. I don't care how far it is. So I did that. And the first thing that came up was this eco village, vegetarian kind of farm in the middle of nowhere in Croatia. So I did that. I hitchhiked, I backpacked, I trekked all the way across, got a bus, a train, and then this lady came to pick me up from this remote village. And when I ended up at that village, I was helping out there for a few days, and then they had like a straw festival in the evening. And there was maybe 50 people at this festival. And when the sun was setting, up this gravel road in the middle of nowhere came some people playing kartals, mradanga, and they sat down at the festival and started singing this song. And I was like, what is I closed my eyes. The sun was set by that point, and everyone was singing and chanting and dancing and throwing hay at each other and looking very blissful. And I just closed my eyes and I was just hearing this sound vibration over and over. And it was a very powerful experience for me. Like, it was very, I could sense that this is something very sacred, very deep. And as I looked up to the night sky, there were so many stars, and I was just hearing this sound penetrating my consciousness. And within the sound vibration, I really felt so much clarity and connection. And it's hard to describe, but like the answers to all of my inner questions were resolved through that sound vibration. So that was my first contact with the Maha Mantra. And it was a very profound experience. But I didn't know what it was because I was like in the middle of Croatia. I couldn't speak the language. And I thought it was like a ritual, like a traditional song that is repeated over and over. But I remember writing in my journal about it, and I felt like a really deep shift in my consciousness. So then fast forward 8 months later, I was back in New Zealand after keeping on traveling, finished my studies. And in my, 8 months after that, because that was in July 2014. So then in March 2015, I think it was, I was completing my third year at university, and I went to the yoga club with my best friend. And at the end of the first yoga class, the yoga teacher started singing with a harmonium, and she started singing Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And I closed my eyes, and I had the exact same feeling and experience that I did in Croatia 8 months earlier. So I just approached her straight after the yoga class, and I was like, yo, what is this? Like, I have to I have to know, what is this sound vibration? Because I had the same sense that this is something very special. It's very deep, and I need to understand what it is. So anyway, from there, that was like, the rest is history. Basically, I just became friends with the yoga teacher. She was like my big sister, Gora Mantra. And then it didn't take me long, myself and my best friend from high school, we grew up together. We came to Bhakti Lounge, we got friends with the devotees, I met my spiritual master, I read the books, I started book distribution, moved into the ashram. And that's been the last 10 years of my life. So that's how I came. And it's I'm really grateful for all the devotees, friendship over all of that time. So it's a bit of
Yeah,
an
it just
adventure.
shows sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just saying it shows the power of the holy name, right? Starting from hearing.
Definitely. I couldn't believe it. Like, when I pieced it all together, I was like, wow, that's the exact same sound. It's the exact same kind of sense of connection that I've been looking for my whole life. So I didn't come through books, actually. I didn't meet a devotee and get a book on the street. But as Prabhupada said, the Sankirtan movement is like the Brihat Mridanga. So the holy name and the books are going simultaneously together. It's
That's
quite
ideal.
powerful.
Yeah. And I guess, the essence and the substance of all the books as well is the holy name. And, they go together hand in hand.
I was reflecting on it, and I was like, wow, that's actually Lord Chaitanya's mercy, because he wanted his name in every town and village to be heard. And somehow or another, it was literally like the middle of nowhere. Even now, I've tried to contact the devotees over there, and I can't find their contact. It's such a tiny village. And I was like, wow, here we are in like the middle of nowhere in this planet, and the holy name was being chanted, and I got benefit from that. I wanted to reach out to them and be like, thank you guys so much. And this is what ended up happening. I was like, that would be a good nectar story for them.
Yeah.
No, she's doing
And
Sankirtan
Krishna's
in New Zealand.
arrangement.
Krishna's mercy, yeah. It's really Lord
Mm.
Chaitanya's like prediction coming to fruition, and
Yeah.
I happen to be on the receiving end. So yeah.
100%.
Mm.
And so how did you get involved with doing book distribution?
To be honest, like from the very beginning of my contact with the devotees here, and especially contact with my spiritual master, that was always a key part of my life. Yeah, from the very first time that I met Devamrita Swami, he basically just sat me straight up and he said, what are you doing with your life? What do you want to do with your life? And I said that, yeah, I'm studying culture anthropology. I want to understand the essence of all cultures, spiritualities, religions, and I'm doing development studies. I want to help human society. I want to help get to the bottom of the world's problems. And he's like, why do you think, he pretty much smashed me, which was so good for me. He's like, why do you think you're going to be able to help? And I was like, hey man, I was like really thinking at the time because I was so puffed up. I was like, oh, like, why does he think I can't do it, And and I said, oh, like I'm studying at university, like I care about people. And he's like, how many people in your class? And I said, oh, about 300. And he's like, so why do you think you're so special that you can make a difference? And then I was like, actually, really good point. It was so challenging because, no one wants their pride to be crushed. But actually, what he said to me after that was very powerful, and that kind of propelled me into book distribution, to be honest. When I think about it, is that he said, if a person is drowning, if a person is having a nightmare, and you can see them, right? You can see, if you're awake and you can see a person having a nightmare, you can see that it's just all in their head. You can see that it's all, it's not actually affecting them. But the point is that you have to be awake in order to wake others up and help them out of their suffering. So that really struck me. And he gave the other example, which Srila Prabhupada uses in Bhagavad Gita, where he says, like, to save the dress of a drowning man is senseless, in the sense that you might rescue a person, but if you just help them by taking their coat, the person is still in the ocean drowning. So in a similar way, he compared that to, okay, you want to help the world, you want to make a change to the world, you want to uplift people, you want to make a difference, but you're only trying to do it through material means. It's not actually going to help the person. He said, you might feed a person today and they'll go hungry again tomorrow. You might clothe them today, the clothes will run out, get damaged. So that initial conversation really shook me up in the sense of, okay, like this man, because at the time I didn't know he's my spiritual master, but I thought actually this person is caring for me on a very deep level. He sees the propensity of my heart, and he's going to help me like channel that energy in a way that's actually going to be able to help me and help other people. So I took that very seriously, like his instructions from there, because when I appreciated what he was saying and I could see that he had such clarity of vision of how to genuinely help, he just started instructing me from that very first darshan about, if you want to help people, you need to be qualified, you need to get knowledge, you need to understand who you are beyond the body, beyond the mind. And then that was pretty much like our relationship from then, from the very first meeting. The second meeting, I got Srimad Bhagavatam and he wrote a message in it. And then he was always, throughout the last 10 years, like instructing me on putting my energies into book distribution, into inspiring others to do book distribution, into expanding the Sankirtan movement. And it's just a very key thread of instructions that have sustained my spiritual life. So also because it says Bhakti Lanja says project, I was very fortunate to be in the ladies ashram run by Krishna Loka, which from the day that you move in, basically it's just part of the company culture. Like it's what we do here as ladies, we go out on the street, we share the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we bring people to the center. So that's like an extension of his mercy, because he set up things in such a way that we have opportunity to get that taste and to get that experience. But for me, I would say having a very strong connection and direction from my spiritual master from the very beginning is what inspired me and has kept me motivated to do book distribution throughout my life.
Yeah, I found also Devamrita Maharaj is very encouraging and inspiring. A lot of devotees to do book distribution and preaching services. And he himself has such a way of, wording things to others, whether devotees or bringing people from outside into Krishna consciousness. His intelligence is just next level.
Yeah,
Like I've had that experience with him as well. Like how you were saying, he challenged you in that way. And he always has something to just like I've had that with personally as well. Like he'll just like smash every argument that I bring up, anything, and he'll be like, what about this? What about that? So yeah, his intelligence is just amazing.
And I I remember thinking at the time, because I was still 19, I think, or maybe no, I was 20 at that point. I was like so young and naive and didn't know a thing about anything really.
Yeah.
And I remember leaving that darshan, and I said to my friend, this is Saumya-mayī Devi Dasi, by the way, the friend that I came to Krishna consciousness with. She's now in LA.
Right.
I said I remember walking home, and I was like quite taken aback, because I was like, oh, I thought monks were meant to be like gentle and just like Om Shanti. And generally when people think of monk, they think of someone like Radhanath Maharaj or someone very like soft and mellow. But then like I appreciated it so much, because to wake up sometimes you need to be shaken up. And
Yeah.
I remember as well, like hearing from a class that my Guru Maharaj gave, and he said when I speak to people, when I speak to classes, to groups of people, I am speaking every word. I am thinking how to speak in such a way that they are left with no other shelter than Srila Prabhupada's books as a solution to their problems. So I could see actually like he's so expert and he's so highly intelligent, like even materially speaking, he's very materially intelligent. Really amazing education and background and everything. But in terms of spiritual intelligence, it's otherworldly. Like he's definitely so transcendentally empowered by Srila Prabhupada. And he has such conviction, like this is the solution. I don't know how many times he has to tell us all the same things, like just take shelter of the holy name, read Srila Prabhupada's books, like all the answers are there. So yeah, we're very blessed in that way to have such an empowered representative of Srila Prabhupada amongst us and guiding us so personally.
Yeah. He knows exactly what to say and when to say it.
Yeah. And what we need to hear, not what we want to hear necessarily, but what we need to hear. And that takes some real
100%.
professor, I think Prabhupada calls it the transcendental professor of spiritual science.
Yeah, that's him for sure.
Amazing. Yeah. So that's how I started. Just kind of,
Yeah,
this
that's
conversation.
nice. Empowered by your spiritual master. That's the best.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here without him.
Yeah. So you also, you were in the ashram for some time, and then you went out and you started, working and doing books through that way. So how did you manage going out for book distribution daily among, balancing full-time work, sadhana, and other services and commitments?
Yeah, sure. I did have this anxiety before moving out of the ashram, and I spoke to my spiritual master about it, because I was like, how am I going to balance everything? Like, I love Sankirtan, I love preaching, but I want to keep that the center of my life. How can I do it? And we had a nice conversation, and at the end of that conversation, he gave an instruction in regard to that question. And he said, like, always try to serve Lord Chaitanya's mission. And if that's your core desire, then somehow or other the show will go on, if that's your core desire. And so that really, even though it's a simple instruction, it really carried me through the initial stage of changing my ashram situation. And I just, after that conversation, I often like to go and spend some time by myself in nature to chant, read, kind of like reflect on my instructions and write. So before moving out of the ashram, I did that, and I went away for a few days and just made some inner intentions based on Gurudev's instructions for this next stage of my life. And just on reflecting, I could see that like my service kind of Sankirtan runs on two main tracks, which is like my personal book distribution and inspiring others and expanding the Sankirtan movement. That's kind of always been key things that he's wanted me to do. So I thought like moving out of the training ashram, would be an opportunity to carry those orders and expand my services in that way. And also, I guess, just kind of show an example of how the service is not just something that we necessarily only do in the single ashram. And then it's like, oh, I've done the yagya, can move on now. But how, you know, at every stage of life, we can deepen our intensity and our attachment for that service, no matter what our external situation is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, that was like my meditation, like, okay, how can I always try to serve Lord Chaitanya's mission and like keep that as my core desire? Because yeah, I think that's just the key factor in Krishna consciousness, you know, desire. Like if we want something enough, no matter what, we'll do it and Krishna will help. Like if there's a will, there's a way. And then the opposite is true as well, right? It's like if we don't really want to do something, then we'll always find an excuse to not do it, which we can experience in our own lives and we can see in others around us. It's like if you don't want to go on books, there's going to be like a million excuses. Like, oh, I'm too busy. I'm tired from working 8 hours today. I've got to cook. I've got to clean. Like all these things have to go on, definitely. But, you know, we'll always find a reason why to not do it if we don't want to do it. But if we have if we kind of meditate and try to cultivate that core desire, like how can I be an instrument for my spiritual master's desires? How can I contribute to the Sankirtan mission? How can I, you know, inspire others to do their best according to their situation? Then when we have that core desire, it's like amazing things start to happen, and it's almost like time expands, you know. Like,
Yes.
yeah, Vaisheshika Prabhu, he says that, right? Like Sankirtan oxygenates the whole community. And so we can feel that in our personal life. Like, even if you're just like, okay, like on Mondays, I would work like 9 till 5:30. And it's like, oh man, 8.5 hours at the office. Like you do get tired, you know, because you're dealing with the material energy. You do get tired and you've still got to cook for yourself and do your washing and do your sadhana and do yoga and so many things. And I've got other services around after work that I need to do as well. But even if you just amidst all of that do like 15 minutes on the way home, then it just oxygenates your whole day. Like it energizes our whole day. It realigns us with our mission. So yeah, that was kind of how I guess, yeah, planned it into my life. Like when I did move out of the ashram, it was after many years. Well, not compared to some devotees, but you know, it's like a decent amount of time, 7 or 8 years in the ashram, where everything externally is quite familiar and similar. I did notice that, yeah, I moved out kind of near the end of September with a couple of the other girls, and I was like to Krishna, like, I don't want to work straight away. Like, how can I be working when there's a marathon about to happen? Like, I just can't do it. So she was like,
Yeah, I know this feeling.
yeah. I was like, I cannot imagine myself sitting in an office when like the streets are alive in summer. Oh my God. So I was just being like a little princess, and she was like, okay, Saumya, like you can go for it, like do a full-time marathon and then come back and get a job because it would be good for you to get stable, like a stable situation, you know, just for for a couple of years, just get stable outside the ashram, find your footing. So I did that. I went on marathon, and then pretty much all at once there was like all these changes. Like it was my first time living outside of, like it was my first time living independently, it was my first time working a proper job, it was my first time being in a relationship with someone. So all of that kind of happened at once, and there were so many external changes. And I guess through that I was really like determined that no matter what's going on externally, I'm going to cling to this service because Guru Maharaj wants that. I know that that will keep me alive in my Krishna consciousness. And yeah, I guess looking back, I can really see, like, honestly, throughout all the changes I've been through, Sankirtan has been like this steady rope that I've held on to, and it's given me such life and strength and shelter. Yeah, because we're all going to go through these external changes at different points of our life. There's going to be people who come and go. There's going to be external shifts in our job, our living situation, our ashram situation. But yeah, I was really like just meditating on that. How can I keep this core desire there? How can I always do something for Lord Chaitanya? And when I was going through like a more uncertain and difficult time, about a year later after moving out, my Guru Maharaj said something that really helped me. And he said, like, you have to learn to take shelter of the holy name in Sankirtan. So just by trying to do that, I've gained a lot of realization on like the richness of these shelters. And then as we take shelter and we do our duty, no matter what's going on, no matter how people are treating us, no matter what our external situation looks like, then by that doing that devotional duty, then our taste actually gradually develops, and then it's like, oh my God, I don't want to miss a day of this nectar, you know. So we just gradually you
Yes.
just go out every day without thinking about it. Yeah, so that's
Mm.
kind of how I've maintained the what was the original question? How I've maintained like balancing full-time working and
Yeah.
ashram
Other
changes and
commitments.
sadhana. Yeah. Because if we have the desire, then Krishna will help. And on a practical level, obviously, like planning, like 10% planning saves 90% time. So I always
Yeah.
like write a very clear week plan, a day plan, a month plan, and then you can integrate it. Like I think it's possible for anyone. And then I just do my little transcendental adventures every now and then, like go on traveling Sankirtan trips on the weekends, come back on Monday morning and do marathons. Just it keeps you kind of like having that renewed taste of absorption that keeps you going throughout the weeks when working, and things like that can be a bit dry
Dry.
or uninspiring. Yeah. So we have to do our little
100%.
transcendental getaways to keep the taste heightened and keep our focus on our mission.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's the whole having a one-pointed focus and recalibrating constantly towards that, no matter what's changing in the material world, which is always going to change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Krishna's always
Yeah.
a constant.
It's the only constant is that there's always change. But the only
Yeah,
shelter,
exactly.
the only stable shelter is like our holy name, the holy name. And the spiritual master's instructions are like the rope that we can always hold on to. And like Vaisheshika Prabhu says that, right? Your saver will save you. So I've definitely experienced that.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that connection that we have with Srila Prabhupada through the book
Mm.
distribution service and the reciprocation we can get just from trying to do our little bit, no matter what's going on in our life.
Yeah. And have you found also that your relationship with Srila Prabhupada and your Guru Maharaj, it becomes like more intimate and closer as you're doing book distribution? Because you're taking more shelter
Definitely.
of them. Yeah.
Definitely, 100%. Yeah, that's like a core aspect of my relationship with them. And I was in Vrindavan earlier this year, and I remember looking at Prabhupada in his samadhi near the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and I was just like getting this realization of how merciful he is to allow us to assist him in such a personal way. And
Yeah.
even, my Guru Maharaj, like I asked him recently, I was like, why is this service so dear to you? Like, why do you love it so much? And he was like, because it's Prabhupada's desire, and there's nothing in the world like Prabhupada's books. So he, he's expressed to me on multiple occasions, like this is his heart and it's very dear to him. So I can feel, and I got that quite early on, like in our first few conversations. Somehow or another, I could really sense and could see from what he was telling me of how intimate this is. And then because of that, I was like, well, I want to have like an intimate relationship with my spiritual master and with Prabhupada and with Lord Chaitanya. So from the very beginning, I could see that this is like, Guru Maharaj said it's like an expressway, So the intimacy is very like sweet and deep, and it's something that we can always take shelter of. Yeah, very grateful for that. And then that kind of personal connection with your spiritual master, it simply intensifies and deepens over the years, and we can then kind of see how that obliges us out of transcendental affection, like to want to give more into the mission, to give more to their service, to give more to conditioned souls, just thinking like the wealth of what they've given us and the wealth that's available in Krishna consciousness. Yeah, it's very natural.
How happy they get as well when we're doing book distribution.
What was that, sorry?
And how happy they get as well when we're doing book distribution, just to keep seeing that smile on their face,
Yeah, they love it. Like, Guru Maharaj loves it. He's so happy and hearing it. He actually, when I first took shelter of him, it was not long after we have to be chanting a certain amount of time, and then you can like officially ask to take shelter of them as a disciple. So I remember I was like, oh, well, I'd really like to have you as my spiritual master. You're all like nervous and clammy and everything. And he was like, okay, so if your heart feels that way, servant of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan, then okay, do something wonderful. And I really took that to heart. I was like, okay, this is the nature of our relationship, the servant of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan. So then he said after that, so always tell me about Sankirtan and that'll keep me happy. So he really, he said he takes great pleasure in hearing about the Sankirtan activity. And I mean, all devotees do, right? Like every devotee. I think even in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada said that in a purport. I remember reading, it was like the devotees of Lord Krishna are naturally attracted by Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. But yes, it's very nectarian for the ears and heart to hear about, especially for a pure devotee.
Yeah,
It's their life, their life and soul.
that's it. Yeah. And as encouraging and inspiring and amazing as Sankirtan is, I know sometimes we do come across some challenges. So I was just wondering what kind of challenges you've encountered on book distribution and how you've overcome them.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be challenges in this material world. I would say, to be honest, like I've been through external challenges and, I've had people like pick up my bag and throw it across the street and, be quite abusive. But those kind of things, like, and, you have days where it's like super cold or super hot, like walking around a car park and all the windscreens are like glaring in your face and you're like, oh my God, I'm melting. But, when you actually put it in perspective and think about what Prabhupada went through and the austerities he went through, those don't seem so hard to tolerate. So I think the main thing, honestly, in terms of challenge is just my mind, like just getting out the door. That's a main challenge for me personally, because even though, theoretically we know like, okay, my mind's my best friend, we're my worst enemy, we tell that to people on the street. The mind is kind of by nature a non-devotee when it's not trained, and so it doesn't want to go out all the time. It's quite an amazing phenomenon. I was thinking like you can have an incredible day on book distribution, meet so many special people, like have nectarian exchanges, and then it's like crazy. Like the very next morning, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I have to, I almost just forget how amazing that was. And I have to like reconvince my mind, like, come on, like, we're going to get out of the door. You know what I mean? So it's just, the mind can be really like, it doesn't always want to get into it, Even on this, I find once we're out there though, like once we just get out the door and hit the pavement, it's like, I think that's a main barrier for a lot of devotees, just hitting the pavement, like getting out there. And once you're out there, you're in the transcendental flow. So
it's so true. I can relate to that.
So that's why it's good to have devotees around us to drag us out and, to arrange times like, I'm going to meet you on the street at this time. And then you got to show up because they're like, come on. So I guess, the mind, it's just like in Bhagavad Gita, the 17th chapter, it says that an austerity of the mind is like to be satisfied, simple, to be self-controlled. So it's like Prabhupada, I think in his purport in that verse, he's saying about how the mind should be always trained to be thinking of doing good for others. So I think that's the austerity of the mind, like it, because it's by nature, the body and mind want to take, but the nature of the soul wants to give. So that's the constant battle on Sankirtan is like the mind and body want sense gratification, just to put it bluntly. And the soul actually wants to give. That's why when we get out there, it's so amazing because we're in our natural position of giving Krishna. But it's that's the flux in the beginning stages. It's the flux we feel of like, should I just stay in my room and be absorbed in myself, or should I go out there? And I know how nectar it's going to be, but just getting out there, it's like pushing through that conditioning of so many material lives of being self-absorbed and selfish and not caring about the good of others. So it's like the Bhagavatam compares the mind to a wild animal, right? It's like we can't fully trust it, so we just have to like always be fortifying our intelligence and training through duty consciousness, training our mind. Like no matter what's going on, just go, just do your duty for Prabhupada, do your duty for the sake of your spiritual master's pleasure. And then gradually by doing that, the mind becomes less of a naughty child, rebelling and rejecting our desire to do good. So yeah, I would
And I
say
guess
that's
it's
a
also smashing the ego as well, yeah. The mind doesn't
mm,
like that.
no, it doesn't. Because the Bhagavad Gita, like in the purports, Prabhupada says of one purport, he's like, the mind and the false ego are like companions, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like if you're hanging out with your friend and then another person is being mean to your friend, you're like, hey, leave him alone, man. So it's like that. The mind's like, okay, let's go. Oh, it's like, oh my God, like Saumya-mayī is taking me out on Sankirtan. And then the mind is already complaining. And then it's like, and then they're going to be mean to my friend, the false ego. Like, oh no, it's getting worse. So I find that like when by studying Shastra and by understanding, like I really like to study. I love to study and kind of analyze different aspects of Prabhupada's purport. So by studying the mind and how it works and how the intelligence and false ego and everything work, it's really helpful because then you can be like, that's what that's saying and that's how I can overcome it. And yeah, it's just quite like
Yeah.
it becomes easier over time when you start to recognize what the patterns of the mind are. And my grandma said, like, if you want to be spiritually powerful, then don't pay so much attention to the mind and how it's feeling. So I found that's a good one to run with because the mind is always going to be feeling something, feeling this, feeling that, generally not in a positive sense. It's going to be feeling anxious or like disturbed or, so many things can come into the mind. But if we just we just do our duty no matter what, and we try to develop satisfaction, simplicity, self-control, then these things can become a bit more tolerable and get a higher
Yeah,
pace.
100%. And also just leading off from that, how has dedicating your life to book distribution and outreach helped to deepen your own sadhana and vice versa? I think you touched a little bit with your, how you're studying a lot and how that helps you to get out as well.
I mean, we can't give what we don't have, so it's pretty much like if we want to give Krishna, then we have to have some connection with Krishna, some association with Krishna to share with others. So yeah, I've found that, like as Vaisheshika Prabhu says, we distribute the overflow. So there's a very natural and natural connection between the two, between our personal sadhana and relationship with Krishna and the act of giving Krishna to others. My Guru Maharaj would say, you just want to read until you fill up till it's pouring out your ears and nose. So it's definitely like I can feel if my sadhana is not sharp, then we can't. We're carried more by our own material conditioning and tendencies than we are by the spiritual energy. But when our sadhana is sharp, then and we're meditating on what we're reading, and then it's like whatever is on the mind will come out on our tongue. So we want to like read and repeat the purports in our own style. And with our japa, if we're really trying to pray and associate with Krishna through the holy name and associate with Prabhupada through the books, then the more that will be carried under the protection of that divine energy, and people will feel that. So it's like, the great souls are carried by like Daivim Prakriti, the spiritual nature. So when we've taken shelter, then we can give that shelter to others. Like I saw that one time I was out with Dina Dayla in Auckland, and she's such a saintly, sweet devotee, and I just could visualize like when I saw her every time she was talking to people, I could almost see like she was extending like this transcendental umbrella over them, just the way that she engaged with them and and I was like, wow, like you're giving the shelter that you've received, it's just such a tangible. So yeah, in terms of chanting, I guess like especially for book distribution, as we're wanting to do more and more of it, we really need to be dependent on the holy name in order to be effective on the street, because it's like a battlefield out there, it's like Prabhupada said that he was like, this is like the temples are like the bases where the soldiers kind of are meant to go out and drop all these books. They're like bombs into the laps of the conditioned souls. So that's literally what's happening. We're like going out into Maya's kingdom on this battlefield of all the modes of nature and so many distractions and so much craziness and chaos these days. So when we're conscious that we're going to go into that kind of atmosphere, then our chanting intensifies in dependency, because like imagine like just now they're like, hey Nikunja, you've got to go and fight on the battlefield of, oh, there's so many wars going on right now, but you know, you have to go and fight in Ukraine or Gaza or something. They're like, we're chucking you on like a Boeing 747. You're going to go and fight now. Like imagine like how much you would cry out for protection, right? Like,
Yeah.
my Lord, protect me. Like this is such an intense situation. So it's like that with Sankirtan. Like we're going into a battle of, and we're not on good territory. Like we're in Maya's territory. So we
Yeah.
really need to cry out for protection from Krishna. So when we're chanting, it's like, please engage me in your service. Like keep me focused on your service. Keep me focused on your mission, so I can help these people on your behalf. Help me bring them to your lotus feet. And yeah, like we have this cure. Like when we chant like that, like, okay, Vaisheshika Guru talks about it in his book, Our Family Business. He says, like, if there's an epidemic all around the world and you have the cure, how can you not feel responsible for dispensing it? So, yeah, that's for me, like, kind of mood of we've been given this solution and we're holding it. Like, who else is going to go out and share these books? Who else is going to go out and share the holy name, if not the devotees? So I feel that kind of sense of responsibility helps us intensify our chanting. And be carried by Lord Chaitanya's, we're kind of riding in the wake of Lord Chaitanya's transcendental movement, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, the chanting definitely, chanting and reading need to be strong so that we can stay strong, like year after year. And just one short thing I heard recently from my Guru Maharaj, it was in an old lecture, and he was saying about chanting japa. He said that we actually want to feel weak in the presence of the holy name. And that means that we feel like we have no other hope, we have no other shelter than that sound vibration. And that's the only solace and solution. So even in, like, I think it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's the famous verse which is saying, like, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pravatana. It's like, unless you're empowered by Krishna, you can't propagate the holy name around the world. So if we're like depending on our own material abilities, then we're really limited. Like we can only do so much because matter is temporary and limited. And it's just like, that's what I've experienced. I don't know if you've had this experience, but if we do go out and we don't pray so much and our chanting's not so good, or if we're feeling like proud, like, oh yeah, I can talk to people, you know, whatever it may be that the mind is proposing, then we go out and we do feel like, it's like Arjuna when he was like, oh my God, I'm the same Arjuna, but I have no power. Like, because Krishna was giving him the power, he recognized like these are just borrowed plumes. So we're the same. It's like when Draupadi was being disrobed and she was like, first of all, trying to turn to different means for help, but eventually she just let go and she's like, hey, Govinda. You know, she realized like, I have no other shelter than Krishna. Like, hey, Govinda, help me. I'm dependent on you. I'm not dependent on my material abilities. I'm not dependent on my skills, my social connectivity, whatever it is. So it's the same like that as far as I can have experience on Sankirtan. If we actually realize like I can't depend on my material abilities, my social skills, my externals, and we do realize like, oh, my only shelter and my strength and empowerment and ability to be able to preach is coming from the holy name and my spiritual master, then that's when we can be more effective.
Yeah, that's so true.
Mm.
Because when we're out there, what else do we have? You know,
Yeah.
it is just, you know, you have to be spiritually armed. Otherwise, what hope do we have, you know?
Yeah. That reminds me of when you said spiritually armed. I was like, one time my grandma, she said, oh, well, you know, that's the saving grace of Sankirtan. Like you have to be fully into it. Otherwise it's just hellish. You just
Yeah.
stand there spacing out. And I was like, oh my God, it's so true. That's the nectar of it. You have to be totally absorbed. And that's why it's such an amazing service, because you're fully absorbed, like you're fully plugged in. Like when you're in an exchange with someone, it's like the whole world just blurs around you. It's just you and that person and Krishna in between. So that's the nectar of it. But also I just thought it was so crack up because he's like, it can be really hellish if you're not into it, because you're like, what do I have? Like I've got nothing to stand on. Just me and like all these people looking like they've got nice clothes and shops and blah blah blah. So yeah, it was like, oh my God, that's very accurate. So yeah, we have to just start using what we have in Krishna's service. Like even if we do start with the material motivations and depending on our material abilities, we just at least start using what we have in Krishna's service, and then my Guru Maharaj said a few years back, he was like, after a while, like Krishna adds to that, like he adds to what you already
Yeah.
have and he ornaments it with spiritual potency, and then you become an empowered devotee. So he was like, you're experiencing a
Mm.
little bit. This is maybe 5 years ago. He's like, you're experiencing a little bit beyond what you have, but there's oceans more available. And I was like, wow, like imagine how much Krishna can do through us if we're more purified and we just get out of the way, like if we just get our false ego
Yeah.
out of the way. Imagine how we could be empowered to do something for Lord
Mm.
Chaitanya and the mission. So yeah, that really inspired me personally.
Mm. And sometimes when we're out on book distribution, there's sometimes that tendency to discriminate um, based on like people's stereotypes or like how a person presents themselves. Like sometimes you see like guys with like tattoos and how can we remove this mentality so that we're reaching out to everyone equally?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, just hearing your question, it reminded me of speaking with my spiritual master about this kind of topic. He said that
Mm.
it was something along the lines of like how you get to learn so much on Sankirtan, especially how imperfect your sense perception is. So
Mm.
he said like your whole perspective is being rearranged by Sankirtan. It was kind of like what you were saying, you might see someone with tattoos or in a business suit or so many different costumes that people are wearing. But from the material vision, someone who's looking very well dressed, the mind may consider, oh, they must be very successful and fortunate and good karma and whatnot. But he actually said
Mm.
that Sankirtan kind of rewires your consciousness to see that good fortune and success are actually defined by whether they render devotional service. So
Mm.
it's a very unique perspective that we gain through Sankirtan. Like someone who's, like a few months ago, I saw this homeless man on the street and he was lying outside KFC with all his sleeping bag and things like that. And he had a Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1 on his sleeping bag. And I was like, we're so fortunate. It was like a Saturday night and there were all these people going out, like, men and women like coupled up with their fancy suits and low cut dresses and thinking they were like so stunning. And then I was like, they're not fortunate. This man is the real fortunate one.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, like Sankirtan it does help us adjust our vision. And obviously we're
Yeah.
coming from a materially contaminated vision. So we do discriminate generally in material life based on what
Mm.
people look like. But when the more we do Sankirtan, we beg for our vision to be aligning with the parampara, then I think that's really like
Mm.
where we can start to break through that tendency.
Yeah.
Just thinking about like can I share one experience I had in
Of
regard to this?
course.
We have
That
time?
was my
Yeah.
next question, but go for it.
I was just gonna, it's not my experience, like I didn't see like this, but it was just very helpful for me for my Sankirtan. So I had the good
Mhm.
fortune of doing a book table with my Guru Maharaj. So he was there and we were distributing together, you could say, like me and another devotee, and Guru Maharaj was at the table. So we would meet people, stop them, bring them over, and he would talk with them and preach to them, distribute the books.
Mhm.
And it was so fascinating because I would bring one person and then he would interact with them and then they would leave and he would always make a comment, like kind of where they were at. So one lady kind of came up and she got a few small books and then she walked off and he said, oh, it will take you many lifetimes. And then someone else came up to the table and without even engaging with him much, he just said, give him some prasad and let him go. He's like very far. And then another
Mm.
boy came up and he really connected with Gurudev and he got a $50 stack of books. And then he walked off and said, Guru Maharaj said, yes, he's a very rare soul. And it's people like that make it all worthwhile amidst all the austerities and rejections, these kind of special
Yeah.
encounters. So from that, I could see like, wow, Gurudev, like these pure devotees, these advanced souls, that they're really seeing where the soul is at. And
Mm.
it was so fascinating because I was like, oh, I just see like young student, oh, this girl who owns a hotel, or this lady who's working in business, whatever. But I could see like, wow, he's really seeing beyond the external costume. He's really seeing where the soul is at in relation to their journey back to Krishna. And that's what this whole material setup is before to get us back to Krishna. So I took a lot of inspiration from that, and I thought like my Sankirtan after that changed a lot because I was just meditating on like, oh, Gurudev, like let me have that kind of like a drop of that kind of transcendental vision, to not see the external body, but to actually understand this soul has a relationship with Krishna. How far are they from that connection, and how can I help them join the dots to get closer to Krishna in this lifetime? So yeah, it's like having that that prayer and that mood that we want to try and get our false ego, get our imperfect sense perception and our mental concoctions out of the way, so that we can see through the eyes of our guru, we can see through the eyes of Srila Prabhupada, we can see through the eyes of Bhagavatam, and even Bhagavad Gita. Like it talks in Bhagavad Gita about the different types of vision, seeing like the spiritual nature of all living beings. So yeah, that's kind of Nityananda Prabhu was like that, you know, no discrimination, the Panchatattva. There's so many verses about the Panchatattva being like, they just flooded the world with love of God. Like it didn't matter if they were lame, invalid, rogue, blind, everyone got the mercy. Because they were saying like, these are souls, like we can't take their costume seriously. So there's it's a nice, it's quite fun, you know, I'm definitely so far from that vision, but it's quite fun to try and at least theoretically like consider. Like I do that, you know, just because I'm not very like spiritual or transcendental at all. So I try to like work towards it, and you know, just I sometimes theoretically look, okay, that person in a business suit now, like 10 years ago, he was in a young teenager body costume, and then in 20 years he'll be in an old man's body costume. So like we have to just use our discrimination and see like, okay, let me not judge them on their current costume and use that judgment as a barrier. And then I take it a bit further. I quite like thinking about death and stuff, not not in a sadistic way, but just like I find it interesting. I find it interesting to consider like, okay, this person now they may look successful in things, but like who knows, like at some point they're going to be on their deathbed, and then like what will they have? So if they don't have the holy name, if they don't have a connection with Krishna, what will they be having and left with? So that helps me like see beyond the external facade, and you know, just try, like give them a chance to have something of value in their life beyond how good they look, beyond what success they think they have, because that's not going to help them at the time of death. Sorry, that sounded a bit strange, didn't it? I like to think about death.
No, it's good actually.
It's good. Like it's useful because it helps to break beyond the barrier of being bewildered by external costumes, you know.
Because at the end of life, that's our inevitable truth. We're going to end up dying. We have to think about it at some point, you know. I think there was something I heard in a class, I think by Swami Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj, about how people that consider death, they can kind of get more out of life as well. And another thing Maharaj mentioned to Swami Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj about like when we see people, we should see the potential in them, what they could become, not what they are right now. So just like redefines that view of how we, you know, see the world.
I love that point, to see the potential. That reminds me of like I used to, maybe we had this, we name our marathon themes. So we had one marathon called Vamana Dev Marathon, and like the whole kind of theme was like taking 3 steps, like Vamana Dev, and cover the world or something like that. And so I had this meditation for that marathon, and it was like 3 steps of courage and leave no stone unturned. That was just like my personal kind of meditation. Like I had this kind of vision that, you know, if there's like a rock or a stone or something, sometimes you just lift it up and then all this, like these bugs and ants and things like run out from underneath it. Like there's all this life underneath the stone, right? So I had this kind of vision like with people as well. Like it said that in the Bhagavatam, there's a verse about how the living entity is wood-like, but inside they've got this fire of spiritual life. So I was meditating on that, like, okay, I'm going to put aside all of my sense perception and external judgments of people's costume, and I'm just going to like take 3 steps towards them. Like it doesn't matter who they are, what they look like. I'm just going to take 3 steps and leave no stone unturned. So the concept was like, just give them a chance, like just say, hey, and you never know, like by lifting up the stone, aka by connecting with that person, by just putting your hand out, you don't know what kind of life is going to come out of that exchange. So does that make sense? It was like
Yeah, 100%.
it was like
That's
just
a
an
good
internal
way
kind
to
of,
see it.
what was that, sorry?
That's a good way to see it. So then we
Yeah.
actually end up approaching everyone. My thing is like, if no one is taking a book, then I'm like, are you actually making the effort to go out and ask people? You know,
Mm,
because sometimes
mm,
that's the time when I'm like, oh, actually, I think I'm discriminating because I'm not asking every
mm.
single person that's walking past me. Why am I not doing that?
Yeah, yeah. We
You
put
know,
some
why are you not
material
giving
kind
these
of,
people a chance?
yeah, and it's exactly right. Like because literally people are just wandering around the universe, and it's like Krishna's put devotees there as contact points, like transcendental contact points. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
like we never know, like when you lift up a stone, you never know what's underneath it. It's like when you just even put one hand out and just smile at someone, you just don't know what's going to come out of that. Like what will that uncover? You know, it's so exciting. It's like so devotionally dynamic, and what to speak of like how you can help someone from there. Because imagine if people did it to us, if they were like imagine if a devotee saw us walking up the street before we were a devotee, and then they were like, oh nah, she looks really weird. Or like, oh, she looks really stylish, like she's probably too cool for Krishna consciousness, or like she looks really successful, like I won't give her a chance. So it's like, imagine if someone assumed something about us just based on our looks, but then there was this whole inner life waiting to be awakened, and if that devotee
Yeah.
just didn't reach out and give us a chance, like where would we be now, you know? Like, so that's
Mhm.
also a nice to just get our false ego out of the way, get our vision aligned with the Panchatattva. And then it's very exciting, and the exchanges that come out of, you know, our little effort can just be so exhilarating, actually. We just never know. That's why Lord Chaitanya, oh, sorry, not Lord Chaitanya, Narottam Das Thakur, he has this bhajan, and it's like, oh, is it Narottam Das? I can't quite remember, but Parama Karuna, Lokshana Das, actually, Lokshana Das Thakur. In his Paramakaruna bhajan, he's like, Vajra Vajra Vai Chaitanya Nitai. So he's like, oh, brothers, just worship Chaitanya Nitai. So we go out with that mood, like, you're my brothers, you're my sisters. Like, people feel that, and then they just feel naturally inclined to connect with you and to take what you're offering.
That's so true. Do you have any inspiring stories from book distribution and outreach preaching that you can share with us?
Oh gosh, there's so many,
We
but
must have oceans.
yeah, ocean. Yeah. I mean, I guess there's not like a set story that comes to the forefront of my mind, but I think most inspiring for me personally is when we meet people on the street and they become a devotee and then they start
Yeah.
distributing books. Like, I just find that so amazing to watch that unfold, because yeah, you're literally seeing them go from being absorbed in material life and seeing where they're at with their habits and their perspectives and everything, to then like seeing them walking into the temple with tilak, or sitting with guests at Bhakti Lounge and sharing Krishna with them, and cooking Krishna prasadam, distributing books. Like, it's completely transformative, and to see that happen, like yeah, I've seen that happen with quite a few people I've met over the years, and it reinvigorates and re-inspires you in your own Krishna consciousness as well, because it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
that's right, that's how powerful the process is. So yeah,
Mm.
I would say, like, for me, the highlights are seeing people become devotees that we've met, and also like distributing sets on the streets. That's quite ecstatic. There was one actually, I don't remember when that was. Yeah, there was one story I recently shared with my Guru Maharaj, because he loves to, each time we meet, he likes to hear different nectar stories. I think one time I wrote him some kind of card thing that had a bunch of nectar stories from like our winter marathon from all the devotees, and then he just wrote back like, I studied the note very carefully. Such nectar drops make life in this world livable. And I was like, wow, that's so true, actually. Like, I
Yeah.
haven't got full realization on it, but the nectar of hearing of others coming closer to Krishna is so transcendentally life-giving. So yeah, I shared one. I can just share it short, a brief story, and just showing the power of Prabhupada's books and the power of what we're doing, even if we can't perceive it at our current level. Like, I can't perceive the full potency of what we're doing every day. But yeah, this showed me a little bit. So in brief, I had a phone call sorry, I had a message come through on my phone in January this year, and this girl said, "Hey, Saumya, like it's Lucy. I need to connect with you and learn more about spiritual life and how to meditate." And then I couldn't remember who it was. I saved people in my contacts, but I met so many people I forget. So then I
Yeah.
called and spoke with her, and she was like, "Yeah, like we met in Hastings in the Countdown car park 2 years ago in December." And long story short, I was like, "Oh, Lucy." Like I still had no idea who she was, to be honest, because like always go to Hawke's Bay. There's so many car parks. Anyhow, so I just said, "Oh, Lucy, like it's so nice to hear from you." And I was like, "What inspired you to reach out to me? Like, was there some catalyst for you wanting to like go deeper in your spiritual life?" And then she said, so she was 17 when she called me. And she said, actually, like 3 months ago, my car rolled down a hill. Like I was in a big car crash and my car rolled down the hill 9 times. And then I left my body, and boom, at the moment I left my body, I could feel I could see my body lying there, and I could feel myself above it. And as soon as I left my body, my mind and my consciousness immediately went to our conversation in the car park when you were showing me a picture of this person with their body changing around them. And you said to me, and you looked me in the eye, and you said, "You're not the body or the mind, you're a spiritual being." And she said that was the first thing that came to her mind when she was at the time of near death experience. So then she said, from that experience, I knew that I have to contact you and I have to learn more about the spiritual life, because what you were saying was actually true. And yeah, it just gives me the shivers even like thinking about it.
Yeah, I've
I'm still,
got goosebumps.
yeah, that was really powerful, because sometimes
Yeah.
we just take for granted what we're sharing. Like it's like, yeah, no, we're not the body. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it's hard to act on that even as a devotee, right? It's like, yeah, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, but
Yeah.
we still get into it sometimes, you know. But like this girl, like from her personal first-hand experience, she was like, she's only 17, but she was like, you were correct, you know, like this is reality. And she was actually in Wellington that time, and I told my Guru Maharaj about it, and he said he would meet with her, but unfortunately she got sick. So I'm going to visit her this weekend in Hawke's Bay, connect with her and teach her how to chant and things like that. But that was really inspiring for me, like just such a powerful reminder of, and the
Yeah.
amazing thing was as well, like, was that I looked back on my Sankirtan notes, because I have years and years of Sankirtan notes and nectar stories that I've written down, people that I've met. And so I looked back and I searched Lucy, and she came up, and it was like, I specifically remember it was the 23rd of December, which is our last night on the marathon. And I was in the Pack and Save car park, and I was like dead tired. It was about 10:30 at night. And I just remember like staring at the rubbish bin, and I was like, oh, Krishna, I think I'm done. You know, just those moments where I hit a wall. I was like, I'm physically and mentally like exhausted. And I just got to the point where I was like, I don't think I even care about these people anymore. Like, I just need to sleep, man. But anyway, I remember saying that to my Sankirtan partner, and then I was like, nah, like I can do it. Like it's the last night. And then we went across to the Countdown car park. And it was like, that was where I met that girl. She was like the last girl that I spoke to
Oh,
at the end
wow.
of your marathon. So yeah, that really also inspired me that, oh my gosh, like if we just push a little bit, we don't know how these people's lives are going to be impacted. So I
It's
told my Guru Maharaj that
true.
story, and he was like, he does, he sit back and like with a big smile and close his eyes, and he's like, make your life full of such experiences, then I'll be happy and you'll be happy. So
Yeah.
yeah, like these kind of exchanges, they leave such a deep impression on the heart. And we can draw strength upon them when times are difficult. We can draw strength and remember how much Krishna can use us, and we can be an instrument in changing someone's life.
It's true. I remember I had one experience during the marathon as well. My friend and I, we went to an area of Melbourne, it's called Fitzroy, and it was like really dead at that time.
Mm.
And after, like, we were trying, and then we're like, why did we even come here? You know, like nothing's
Yeah, yeah,
happening.
yeah.
And then we met this girl or lady, and she was like, "Oh my God, I was praying for these books, and you guys are like angels. You just came. Oh my God, you guys are like blessings." She was so
Wow,
grateful. And she was like, "I was
wow.
literally praying for this, and you guys came here." And I think she gave like a good donation maybe
Mm,
it must have been $50 or something, because I remember we kept giving her
mm.
books to cover up.
Yeah, yeah.
And but just that gratefulness and that gratitude,
Mm,
I was
mm,
like, wow, like there are people out there like searching for this and like literally
yeah,
praying and begging that they want to get
mm,
this kind of knowledge, and
mm,
just finding that one person, and it just makes it all
yeah.
worth it.
That's so true. Yeah, it's like we don't think we're doing so much, and like you said, it in Fitzroy, it's like times like they're like, why are we even here? And it's almost like
Yeah,
just at that moment when you're feeling helpless, that Krishna's like, I'll show you why you're here. You're like, oh, thanks, my
yeah,
Lord. You're like, but it's
yeah.
Prabhupada's mood, like Prabhupada was praying like that when he arrived in America on Jaladuta. He was like, my dear Lord
Mm,
Krishna, I don't know why you've brought me here, but I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? So it's like we
mm,
have glimmers of that kind of meditation as devotees. It's like, why am I in this tiny town in the middle of nowhere? Or like, why is no
yeah,
one wanting to talk to me? What are you doing, Krishna? And then as soon as we start to pray, then
mm,
Krishna's like, okay, like now you're ready to be used as my instrument because I'm going to do the work,
mm,
but I'll do it through you, and we get the credit.
mm,
So yeah, it's very, yeah, I just had that experience recently, like in my last weekend trip, and I was just like about to finish for the day, and host the program that evening. So I was like, okay, I probably should wrap up. And then I was about to not stop this lady because I'm like, get back to the
mm,
car, have some prasadam. And then I just put my hand out and she turned around, like I didn't even say anything. She turned around, she's like, hello. And I was like, oh, we're just showing these. And she's like, why did you stop me? Why did you choose to stop me? And I was thinking like I actually wasn't going to. But then she ended up being like super sincere, and she was like a single mom, and she's in government housing and like emergency housing, and she's come out of an abusive
mm,
like sexual abuse as a child and domestic violence as an adult. And she actually like she received the books with such grace and gratitude, and she just was like tears in her eyes, and she said like repeatedly, she said, why did you stop me? You saved me today. You literally saved me. Thank you. I can't thank you enough. You saved me. Like
mm,
I envisioned that she wasn't, yeah, she was thinking of doing something for her to herself, which was not good. And so I was like,
mm.
man, I just wasn't there, and I just decided to be like, oh, I'm gonna head off. Like, oh, I've done my dash, like those kind of things.
Yeah,
Krishna so
yeah.
much wants to use us. Like Lord Chaitanya so much wants to use us, much more than we
Mm,
could desire. So yeah, having those experiences is so wonderful, like the one you shared.
mm.
It's
But
so
it's true also,
satisfying.
like I've noticed, because when I go out with my friend, her name's Ashley, when we go
Mm.
out, I remember because we were trying to do it every day during Akshay Tritiya. So we noticed like every time we were going home, that's when I do my dash. Like people would start taking books from me when we're going home. And
Right.
she'd
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
annoyed with me because like we needed to be home because like we need to get up early the next morning. She had uni, I had work, all this kind of
Mm.
stuff.
Mm.
But like every time it would be like another half an hour or so. It's still
I know. It's
unfinished.
so it's like dangerously
It's almost
addictive,
like
eh?
she'll do it on the way, I'll do it on the way back. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's just like once you actually start, it's like dipping in the ocean, right? It's like
Yeah.
once it's like takes you ages to get in. It's like, oh no, like oh, I've got to like wait till I'm warm enough. Blah blah blah. Got so many things to do, and then you get out and you dip in the ocean, and then it's like you just swimming and diving deep, and you don't. It's so hard to get out
Yeah.
of that ocean once you're in it. So
Don't want to go home.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you're like, I've got so many things to do though. So it is a balance, like not in a fanatical way that we push ourselves, to the point
Yeah.
of getting out of balance. But yeah, it's such a nectar taste
Of
that
course.
drives us on.
Mm-hmm.
Krishna is so kind. That's good.
And as you go out on book distribution, have you found any strategies that have been most effective in inspiring others to take part in book distribution?
In terms of inspiring like a community or a yatra, or
Yeah,
you just mean like
community
friends
and
and things?
even just individuals, anybody really.
Right. Yeah. Um, yeah, that has been a key part of one of my services, or like instructions at least, to try and expand the Sankirtan movement and get everyone involved. So I've tried a few different, like I think you mentioned in the start, I've done these book missions, these global book missions and things like
Mhm.
that, which, yeah, I've had certain strategies to try and get as many devotees as possible involved. And I don't know, I just find like it's not exactly strategy, but it's just more that because as I mentioned earlier, like devotees are naturally attracted to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. So it's just, I guess, breaking down barriers to make it easy for devotees to get involved within the ashram, like within the training single ashram. I would do like a lot of little inner ashram initiatives, like little mini challenges for the girls to get us out the door. I think we did something like Sankirtan workout plan. It'd be like power half hour. So it's like, okay, who wants to do a power half hour? So then we like go out for half an hour and just tag up with a buddy and or something like try and do a stack a day or something, like different initiatives, just to, I guess, like creating little transcendental challenges, and just try to keep it fun and exciting and create a bit of hype to remind us what we're like, because it's naturally exciting what we're doing. Like I was talking to Kesha Maharaj, SB Keshava Swami in Mayapur, and he was like, this is like the most electric transcendental movement in the entire creation, and we get to be part of it. And I was like, right, like it's such an ecstatic thing to be part of, Lord Chaitanya's movement. So just try. I'm quite a creative person. I like to create music, and I like to write songs and raps and make videos and things like that. So yeah, I just try to engage all of those abilities that Krishna's given me in hyping the Sankirtan movement for what it is, I guess. Like making music videos and like graphics and just little challenges that devotees can be inspired to contribute to. So yeah, I think using creative means to remind us of the exciting movement that we're actually part of and that we can do something together for is fun. Like we've had things like Gita Jayanti where we're like all on the marathon during Gita Jayanti, and then we have like a little competition. Let's have a group goal. We want to do this many Bhagavad Gitas between us, and then we have like every 2 hours devotees update the sheet, and we can see what we're doing together. And then for the book missions for my Guru Maharaj's Vyasa Puja, that idea came to me during Japa one morning when he was, this was like 5-6 years ago now. He was turning 70, and I was just meditating and thinking, okay. Well, I was thinking before Japa, I was like, oh, what could be a way to glorify my spiritual master? Like, he's so wonderful. Where could you even start? And then because that was on my mind, I guess, during Japa, this idea just came to my consciousness, like his book, Hiding in Unnatural Happiness. I was like, well, that's like such an amazing book. And he's so happy when he hears about book distribution, and he loves it when devotees cooperate for the Sankirtan movement. And so this idea just came like 1008 happiness mission. And it was like, I was like, let's try and get 70 devotees on the street on one day as like a Vyasa Puja offering, and let's try to do 1008 happiness books. And so that was just this vision that came to me while I was chanting, and then it kind of like expanded a lot from then. Like every year since then, we've done like a global book mission. It started as a national thing. I was like, let's get the devotees in New Zealand to do 1008 happiness books, and all these devotees got on board, like devotees, like 25-year-old, senior devotees, and then brand new devotees. And I could just see like this is really powerful, bringing devotees together for a common mission for the pleasure of the spiritual master. And he was so happy. And then from like every year since then, we've done an annual Vyasa Puja mission. And it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger. Like it's actually a lot to manage because especially the last few years I've been working as well. And I think that last year we had like 300 devotees around the world going out, and we have like these massive spreadsheets and score sheets and live updates and music videos and hype tracks. And but yeah, I think like, devotees that I've spoken to, they look forward to it. And like I have devotees contact me from different places around the world. They're like, what's the mission this year? So it's really like an ecstatic way to come together for the pleasure of the Guru. And yeah, I think just making it fun, like my Guru Maharaj always said to me, like, I want you to keep things like fun and keep things jumping for Krishna. Like I hate it when people think this is just a boring religion. Like Krishna consciousness is such a revolutionary, like exciting movement. So yeah, and I mean, when we think about what it is that we're actually part of, I remember reading on the back of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and on the back of the book it says that while in the West there were like explorers circumnavigating the planet. It was about the time that Christopher Columbus was discovering America, so that's what they were relating to. They said at the time when, in the West they were exploring new lands and the physical universe, in the East Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was masterminding a revolution directed inwards towards the scientific understanding of the highest knowledge of man's spiritual nature. So that line always stuck with me. I was like, wow, like this is a revolution directed inward, like to awaken the soul. Like it's so dynamic and exciting. So when we think about what it is that we're actually part of and what it is that we're actually doing and the value of it, then naturally it becomes enlivening. So I like to try and meditate on that myself and then try to share that realization and enthusiasm with others through creative means. Like I just personally kind of like hip hop. I'm just I like rap and hip hop, and I think like it's a bit of an untapped market like for devotees, because a lot of people like good music and beats and tracks and stuff, but we don't really have a lot of that in Krishna conscious movement. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna dovetail my my propensities and like write a rap about Sankirtan and something like that. And that I think when we feel unenthusiastic or when we feel deflated or uninspired or when the mind gets on top of us in relation to Sankirtan, it's because we've forgotten like what we're part of and what our mission is.
Yeah.
So when we actually, like one time my Guru Maharaj was like, can you just stop for a moment and realize like the enormity of this mission that you're taking part in? Like it's universal movement and
Yeah.
it's like so transcendental. And yeah, if you just stop for a moment and think about the gravity and depth of what you're actually doing when you're on Sankirtan. So he gave this example of like if someone sees a little child walking off a roof, about to walk off the roof, then what is like your natural response? You naturally feel like, oh my God, I have to tell them to stop. This is going to cause them so much suffering. And you feel natural compassion and worry and anxiety for that child. And he said, just imagine that billions of people are doing that. Billions of people are slaughtering their human form of life. So he said, like, we have to really meditate and realize within ourselves, like, the extreme depth, potency, and value of what we're doing when we're on Sankirtan, because it can be mistaken to be like just a basic, simple activity. Like we stop someone, we say something, we give them a book, they give money, that's it. But when we actually zoom out, and that's what inspires me, like for trying to, like your question was about inspiring others to get involved. That's what inspires me when I zoom out and I just take a moment to reflect and pause and read and meditate on the value, the depth of, and the transcendental bliss of what we're giving and what we're doing as a Sankirtan devotee. Then that makes it very natural to try to share that enthusiasm with others and try to deepen our compassion ourselves as well. So yeah, creative ways to how would I put it? Yeah, I try to use creative means to awaken what's already natural to us as devotees and to remind us of the mission and what we're already part of, because everyone wants to taste that nectar, it's like we just sometimes need, we sometimes just need to be facilitated. Like I do here, like so many times I've set up book tables, like community book tables, and I'm like, hey, devotees, like I'll be out on this time at this day. Anyone's welcome to come join, or like the ladies come join this time, the men come join that time. And I set up the book table. We bring the prasadam. The books are already there. The set is already there. So, and then devotees just have to get on the pavement and just be there, But yeah, just trying to make it easier. So on a personal level, on a community level, on a friendship level, and on a global level, just trying to break down barriers to help devotees unlock that bliss and gain, deepen that realization of what it is we're doing and how valuable it is. So yeah. I started social media again recently as well for that kind of means, because I wasn't on it for like 10 years or 9 years or something. I just kind of got into the ashram and just got absorbed in that. And I was like, I don't need social media, a waste of time, blah, blah, blah. People are just trying to prove their lives, blah, blah, blah. But then over the last year or so, it's something that's come up in my mind that actually, Yukta Vairagya, everything can be engaged in Lord Chaitanya's service. So for the last 6 months or so, I was kind of meditating on, or since just before the last marathon, I was like, well, I have like ability to make videos and things like that. And I have so many friends on Facebook from my material life, and I've never used Instagram, but maybe I could do that. But I didn't really know where to start. I was like, oh, I want to do an outreach account and I want to do a preaching account, but I was like, what angle do I go at? So then I was praying about it. And Krishna reciprocated with my prayer by arranging a situation in Mayapur that I was helping Devi Shakti Mataji with the Prabhupada Museum at GOVP when I was in Mayapur, and then because I was already in the museum, then I was able to gain access to some talk with the some talks with the ILS, the International Leadership Seminar. And then Keshava Swami was giving one of the talks, and it was called Make Wisdom Go Viral. So he was speaking about the importance of devotees making content that will share Krishna consciousness. And then I don't know what, something took over me. I was like, I have to talk to him. I need to ask him these questions that I have about doing my online doing some online preaching. And I just there were all these Indian young men around him, getting photos and things. And he saw me in the back, just waiting behind all these Prabhus. And he came over, he was like, Mataji, it looks like you have a question. And I was like, I do, Hare Krishna Maharaj. And then we had this amazing conversation. It was so I could see that Krishna was, helping through him. And he gave me a lot of encouragement and guidance on how to begin online preaching. And he said people are just craving authenticity, because I was like, oh, do I go with my preaching with my outreach account, you could be full on, I'm a Hare Krishna, or you could be Jay Shetty, who's hardly detectable that he's a devotee. Or I was like, oh, you just be in between. And he's like, yeah, his wife, right? And I was like, exactly, but I want to be the most effective. And he's like, actually, people are just craving authenticity. Just be yourself, present how you feel comfortable as you are, and people will soak it up, because no one's authentic these days, and devotees have so much to give. And then he's like, my main principle, I think this is quite interesting because I can see how he does it too. He said, my main principle when I'm creating content is that I want to be transcendently proud of what I'm posting. And so if you go with that principle, then you won't compromise anything, and you'll be most effective, and people will be drawn to that because you're happy with it. They'll receive it well. And then this one Indian Prabhu, because everyone was listening to our conversation. I was like, oh my God, I'm this tall white girl in the middle of India. So obvious. And then this Prabhu goes, oh, but Maharaj, what about, you can easily get affected by Maya on social media, so many distractions and temptations. And then Maharaj got very heavy, and he was speaking to me, and then he turned to this boy. He's like, this is not, I'm sick of this argument, because he said, number one, if devotees like this girl, he said, if devotees like this are not creating content, then people are online, 70% of the world are online for 7 to 8 hours a day. If they're not consuming our content, then what are they consuming? It's only content that's going to degrade their consciousness. So he's like, we need devotees like this to share Krishna consciousness, share their realizations. And that's where I got the concept of conscious content from. I was like, okay, I want to make conscious content that I'm transcendentally proud of, that can uplift others. And then he said, he's like, I'm sick of this argument of devotees saying it's Maya going on social media, because everything can be used in Krishna's service. And what is the difference? Tell me, what is the difference? When I was a brahmachari, I used to go on London, Oxford Street, every day for 7-8 hours, standing outside a shop, playing calming music, selling liquor, selling meat, talking to all sorts of people, seeing girls dressed in all sorts of things. I'm in the midst of Maya, but why am I there? To give Krishna. Why am I there? To be an instrument for Srila Prabhupada, to give them Srila Prabhupada's books. And that's my aim, that's my focus. Then I won't get distracted by the Maya around me. So that really helped me a lot when I did start using social media again for this purpose of preaching and inspiring devotees on twofold, is that those principles and his guidance have helped me a lot in developing. I haven't really had much time to properly develop content, but because I've started this Every Town and Village project, I use that as a platform to share the events and things. And I recently started a Sankirtan account to try and inspire and share Sankirtan stories and realizations. But yeah, I just thought it was cool to share, because Maharaj gave a lot of inspiration there, and I think it will be helpful for devotees who are looking to do online preaching.
Yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
what is your account? If devotees wanted to follow your journey, because I know you're documenting your
All right.
journey, you're leaving your job in 3 days.
I know I'm leaving my job in 3 days. I'm so excited.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, Krishna. Yeah, my account I recently created this particularly for book distribution. It's Sankirtan Ocean. And for my outreach account, which is like the idea is that it's for people who are not devotees that want to have more conscious content and learn about bhakti, simple living, higher thinking. That one is conscious HQ with an underscore in between. So yeah, they're just two small.
Is that on Instagram and SoundCloud?
And Instagram, yeah. Oh, and then my
Mhm.
SoundCloud account is Sankirtan Ocean as well.
Right.
I got
Awesome.
this name because one of my first instructions from my Guru Maharaj was about immersing myself in the Sankirtan Ocean.
Right.
He said
I thought as much.
I just use it for everything because I just love it. It's like he said, the more you immerse yourself in the Sankirtan Ocean, the happier you'll be and the happier everyone else can be in the world. So I've just like that's been my tagline for my life. I'm just trying
That's
to
great.
I'm trying to increase my immersion more and more. And I notice I'm becoming happier and happier. So, yeah. The SoundCloud and the Instagram have the same name. On the SoundCloud, I put different lectures and saffron sound bites and things like that.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
Thank you.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, it's fun. I like
And
things being all in one place.
yeah. You know how you started this Every Town and Every Village project? What is that about?
Yeah, it's just my vision was that I love traveling Sankirtan, so I like going to different towns around New Zealand, especially like small towns, and distributing books. And so I had this, yeah, I especially like it because I feel that like in the big cities, there's quite a few devotees. A lot of people get a chance to come across Krishna if they want. But in these small towns, I remember reading a purport in Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada said, like, the conditioned soul is like a fish in a net, and they have no way of coming out on their own. He used the term like mohajala.
Right.
So I kind of meditate on this in small towns. Like these people are just raised in the same kind of way. If they don't like leave that small town, they'll just end up kind of following what their parents have done, and it's just the same thing. They have no way out of that situation. So I like to think that if Sankirtan devotees are not coming there, then their life will never change. And there's like a prayer that Prabhupada writes. He says that it's in like a prayer to offering to his spiritual master on his disappearance day. He says that everyone is anxiously looking down the road and waiting for Chaitanya Nitai to come to their rescue. So those are two of my meditations on why I wanted to focus on like these small town and like travel for doing more traveling Sankirtan. So then I thought, okay, my Guru Maharaj said actively distribute Lord Chaitanya's mercy. That's my desire for you. So I was thinking like, well, what is Lord Chaitanya's mercy? Like, what does that entail? It's like the knowledge of Krishna. It's the kirtan. It's the holy name. It's the prasadam. So I wanted to arrange my life in such a way that I could integrate all of those things in giving Krishna to people so that they receive like the whole package, so to speak, of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And that's the activities of the Panchatattva. They were preaching, distributing, dancing, chanting, giving prasadam like that. So yeah, I just had this vision that I would like to go to gradually make my way to every town and village in New Zealand, and when I visit these towns, do Sankirtan during the day, like book distribution during the day, and then host an event in the evening where people can come and experience Krishna consciousness for themselves. So yeah, I've started that this year. I mean, actually, three or so years ago, myself and Madhava Mohini, we traveled. We kind of tried this idea. We went to two towns and tried this idea. And one of the towns in Hawke's Bay, we hosted an event and like one person came and we were like, oh my God, like 4 devotees came up to be part of the event and there was like one guest and we were like, oh no, fail. But the interesting thing was that a person that we met on the street during that week that we were there ended up becoming a devotee, and he's now such a sweet, sincere devotee. Dr. Trent in the Wellington community, and now he's like an amazing cook and distributing books. And yeah, so that was like, we can't see what's going to happen, who we're going to meet. So yeah, that was like 3 years ago. We tried that little and I saw, oh, this is really like amazing. It's really effective, like having that book distribution for the day. And then when I've started it this year, you meet all these people during the day, and the only thing I don't like about traveling Sankirtan is that you can't bring them to a center. Like that's the nectar. That's why I love city Sankirtan as well. Like I love, being able to meet all these people in Wellington and then be like, hey, well, I'll meet you at Bhakti Lounge, and then they come for dinner and it's like, wow, they get the holy name, prasadam, sangha. So I was like lamenting about that. I was like, oh man, we meet all these people on marathons and we never see them again, and they never get to taste like what is bhakti, like beyond what they read in the books. And I'm like,
Mm.
if they're reading about it, like how nectar the holy name is, how nectar kirtan is, like we should give them an experience of that, you know? So I feel that, yeah, I created this project because I wanted to be able to give people more of Lord Chaitanya's mercy in a practical way, and give them a taste with the idea that they get such a taste that then they want more. So when we go back and visit again, then they'll want more books, they want sets eventually, Srimad Bhagavatam sets, and then they'll become a practicing devotee. So then the whole kind of broader vision is that I can help to like be an instrument in creating like a lot of satellite devotee communities around New Zealand that eventually start their own centers and spread Krishna consciousness in their own right. So yeah, that's the idea. We've done I've done 3 events so far this year. Like I try to do one a month because I'm still working at the moment. So I go away for a long weekend, host an event, and yeah, the whole essence of it is based on Lord Chaitanya's prediction, like Priti Viti Achi Yatanagi Reddy Gram, Savat Chapachari Hurve Moranam. So he said, in every town and village throughout the world, my name will be heard. So it's kind of just, I'm really enlivened by it because I'm meditating on the fact that this is Lord Chaitanya's prediction and therefore it can't go in vain. Like it has to happen. So it's really nectar, like getting to play a little role in helping to fulfill that prediction. And it's kind of full circle for me as well, like because I was the recipient of the holy name in a very, very, very small village in the middle of nowhere. So I feel like giving that back to others as well is, yeah, it's a natural obligation, I feel, to share that. So yeah, we call them hotspot events for conscious connection, with the idea that it's like when someone, so when I say we, I travel with different devotees. I just take some of my my close friends. I'm like, who wants to come? And then a couple of I've gone with Vera Gopi on the trip so far, and then in another trip I took a few younger devotees. And then on another trip I took a girl that I met on the first Every Town and Village event on Sankirtan, and then she came with us on the Sankirtan trip and was distributing books. So that was really cool. But yeah, hotspot events for conscious connection. It's kind of the idea that it's like if you want to hotspot someone's phone, if they hotspot to your phone, they previously didn't have connection to the internet, but through you, they got connection to the whole World Wide Web, so to speak. So it's the same idea, like through coming to one of these Every Town and Village events, like through that event, it's like a hotspot that connects them to spiritual life. And through the wisdom, through the books, through the kirtan and prasad, they get connection to Krishna consciousness. So yeah, it's my meditation. It's a new project, but it's going well so far by Krishna's mercy, and we're meeting nice people. And hopefully they can, I mean, a couple of those people have started chanting japa and reading the books and distributing them so far. So I'm looking forward to having more time, like when I'm not working very soon, when I'm not working, I'll have time to visit more, to travel more. And now devotees are coming to me as well, which is super inspiring, because I'm kind of doing this on my own. A lot of my, it's like I don't have a partner, I don't have an ashram that I'm part of as such. So I'm just kind of depending. My motto is like this year it's been like take the first step and lean on Lord Chaitanya. So because I'm going out on my own in that sense, like out on a limb a little bit, it's just been amazing to see that actually Krishna's sending devotees like coming forward to me who are wanting to help. So they're like, oh, I've heard about these projects and this vision that you have. Like, how can I jump in and assist? Or devotees from Auckland and different places in New Zealand, like they're like, I want to come on your next trip with you and cook or help with the yoga or help with the kirtan. So it's really, I'm just doing my humble best with the resources I have, and then Krishna's sending so much support.
Yeah, and I've seen some videos from that as well. It looks amazing. I think it's an excellent idea. You're taking prasadam, books, and the holy name to the people. It's like
and
almost like
I'm
Rath
learning a lot
Yatra, taking the temple to the streets.
yeah, that's the vision. And I'm learning lots too, like because I'm cooking for the programs, and I'm learning how to best present to different kinds of people and learning new recipes. And I have this idea that gradually, like over the months, I've built up a lot of contacts with people and got their contacts from the form that they fill out. So then I'd like to start hosting like immersion retreats, like where they can come, and if they liked the event, then they can come for like a weekend retreat that I can host and things like that. There's so many ideas. I have so many ideas. I'm like, can't wait to have more time. I can start to, put more energy into everything.
Less than 3 days to go.
Yeah. And then I'm going on a traveling Sankirtan trip for 10 days.
Next up.
So, yeah, I'm grateful for, it's a wonderful opportunity. I'm grateful for the situation I have. Guru's mercy.
And just on and just on a little bit of a tangent to inspire young distributors, because on the 26th to the 27th, there's a global book distribution for the youth that BBG is running. So I was just wondering if you could give one piece of advice to the youth in regards to book distribution, what would it be?
I would say just like dip your toes in the ocean. Splash about, have fun. Like I said earlier, that the more we immerse ourselves in the Sankirtan Ocean, the happier we become. That's what I was told and I've experienced. So just give it a go. Just dip your toes in, have fun, take a friend out. The best memories and best friendships and relationships come through Sankirtan, through doing service together. And I guess also just kind of don't be afraid to stretch a little bit for Krishna, because when we're in a comfortable situation, everything is predictable and it's not so exciting, like if you stay in the precincts of your own room, there's only so much that can happen in terms of what's going to happen around you. It's pretty much predictable. But as soon as we get outside of our four walls of our room, as soon as we get off our screen, then there's so much unpredictability of how Krishna will use us. And it's very exciting, like just by putting ourselves out there. It's like what Prabhupada said, that, oh my Lord, I'm a puppet, so make me dance as you like. So I think just going out with that mood of like, I'm just going to have fun, I'm going to connect with people, I'm going to give them Krishna to the best of my capacity, go out with your friends, and just have an excited and enthusiastic mood of how Krishna, how are you going to use me today, Krishna? And that's when the magic will start to happen. And I guess some thought would be about remembering like who's behind us, because I think our self-perception carries across a lot in our Sankirtan. So if we're thinking like, oh, like people think I'm religious, or they think I'm a beggar, or they think I'm trying to get money off them or whatever, if we're thinking about that, it's generally what we're thinking about ourselves, people will feel. But if we actually change our self-perception and we think from the perspective of Shastra, like the Bhagavatam says that the most intelligent people worship the Lord through Sankirtan. It's a Shastric verse, and that the whole parampara is actually behind us. Like I was walking to books the other day and I got this kind of experience. I was like, wow, like the most intelligent living beings in the universe, like Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the six Goswamis, they're all like the most intelligent living beings, like in our Guru Parampara, they're right there. And they're all walking behind me right now, pushing me onwards. Like, just know that you're doing the best thing. Just know that you have the full support and blessings of the whole Guru Parampara all the way back to Krishna, back to Lord Chaitanya. And then remembering that support that we have, and the privilege that we have to do this service, I think that will help a lot, just going in with the right mood, because what we're carrying is very precious. Like just remembering the time and sacrifice that went into writing these books by Srila Prabhupada, and what to speak of before him, those who, recorded the Shastra and allowed us to receive it in such an easy way. Like my Guru Maharaj said, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are direct contact with Krishna. So we're literally carrying the most precious jewel. And if we get the chance to do Sankirtan as our service, then we're very fortunate. My Guru Maharaj said it's the most fortunate position in the universe to be a servant of the servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I think, having fun and going in with that mood of gratitude and genuine desire to be used by Krishna as an instrument, then we'll have a lot of fun and the magic will start to happen. So that would be my little 2 cents.
That was more than 2 cents. That was quite deep.
Sorry.
It was good. It was
I
good. The
get into
magical adventures of Sankirtan.
yeah,
Yay.
transcendental adventures. Sorry, I tend to get really like carried away when I talk about something I love. Like I just get into the flow.
No,
So please
that's why
forgive
we're
me.
interviewing you.
I love it, and it's yeah, it's really nice to have an opportunity to reflect on what we've been given, which is kind of
Yeah.
why I guess it's nice timing. It's interesting timing that you reached out like just before I'm about to finish my work and dive into that more. It's
Yeah.
a nice opportunity for me to reflect on like why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I've chosen to take the path that I'm about to walk. So yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity.
We're excited to see what will happen next in this transition. Exciting
Yeah,
times.
I'm pretty excited too. It's like nerve-wracking but exciting. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
when you're kind of open to how does Lord Chaitanya want to use me? I mean, I spoke to my Guru Maharaj in depth about he's given certain directions and instructions, but it's yeah, to be honest, I'm just like I always wanted this. Like I always had this deep desire. And throughout the ashram, I always had services that were in relation to preaching and outreach. That was the mercy of Krishna Loka and my Guru Maharaj. But for my future outside of the training ashram, I always thought I really want like a simple life, adventurous life that's centered on service and sacrifice and Sankirtan. So it's really amazing to see how if we just keep meditating on that desire, then Krishna and the Guru give direction and arrange situations that desire can be manifest in your life. So it just feels, yeah, I'm like, life's short, if we've got a vision and we've got energy and capacity to do something for Krishna, then why not just go for it? And I think just having examples throughout my life, all of the people that I look up to, like my spiritual master and senior devotees like Devi Shakti Mataji and Vrindavan, and my mentors and God sisters here, it's like all of these devotees I look up to. I feel like just so inspired to follow in their footsteps, because seeing that all of them are so dedicated to preaching and giving Krishna to others, I can see that as a result of that, they're all so blissful and enlivened and peaceful and satisfied in life. So I'm just like, I want what they have, follow the lotus footsteps of these amazing devotees that are walking before us on the path. So that's my prayer, to try to follow their lotus footsteps and try to help as many people along the way as well. So please, putting it out there to the Vaishnavis to please pray for me and send your blessings and support that I can be an effective instrument for Lord Chaitanya and my spiritual master. And it's the mercy of the devotees that will allow us to make progress towards that goal.
It's so beautiful and so true. Thank you so much for your time today, Saumya-mayī. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure there'll be many devotees inspired by this podcast. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nikunja Vasini. Lovely to chat with you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Haribol.
Hare Krishna! Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Sankirtan On. For more resources, visit us at www.distributebooks.com. See you next episode, and remember, carry on, together strong, Sankirtan On!